Welcome to Digital, a podcast brought to you by AttentionMedia, a location-agnostic digital growth agency helping businesses become iconic brands. On this show, we dive into the hottest topics, the latest updates, and what's working in social media and digital marketing right now to get you up to speed and keep you informed. And if you want to grow your business through strategic digital marketing, head over to attentionmedia.com.au, click on the Book a Discovery Call tab, fill out some details, and we'll be in touch. We'd also love to know if you're listening to this show, so please take a screenshot, upload it to your preferred social media account, and tag us at Attention Media Agency. Let's get into the show. Mate, thanks so much for joining us on the call today. How is everything?
Yeah, good. Good. It's evening here. You're just about starting your day, aren't you?
Mate, we are. We have started our day nice and early, bright and early. But mate, thank you so much for taking the time. I've wanted to obviously get yourself or Lloyd on the show for a very long time. So, mate, really appreciate the time.
Oh no, they're looking forward to it. Should be good.
Mate, actually, looking out your window there, mate, is that snow out there?
I tell you what, it's not. It's cloud. But for the last 3 days, it's been snowing, and we've had quite a lot of snow. So.
Cool.
Freezing. Well, how hot is it where you are? Is it?
Mate, well, today it's due to be about 37 again here today. So that's 37 Celsius. So yeah, warm. Definitely no snow.
Wish I was where you were.
Oh, mate, it's well, at the moment you don't, because Victoria's back into a COVID lockdown. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, today's day 5 of a 5-day snap lockdown. So hopefully tomorrow we're back to some sort of normality. But
yeah, we're still in lockdown, so I know the feeling.
It's crazy. We can't complain. Mate, for anybody who is tuning in, and I feel like saying that phrase that gets used all the time if you've been living under a rock, and you don't know who Dan Knowlton is, mate, can you please give us a bit of a 30-second who you are, mate?
Yes, so I run a creative video and social media marketing agency called Knowlton with my brother. We work with brands to deliver creative marketing campaigns that drive a trackable return on investment. Doing it for about 6 years now. We're currently a team of 6. And yeah, we work with some really cool brands like FIFA, Nestle, Wall, Citibank. And pre-COVID, I was speaking at really cool events all around the world, but since COVID, done none of that. So just been in lockdown, really. Yeah,
mate. And not to gloss over the fact that you've launched and started your own very successful agency, but with the speaker thing, like, is there anything happening at all? Like, is anybody trying to do virtual stuff, or it's just completely kind of?
It's a weird one because pre-COVID, speaking was a big part of our whole marketing strategy to build awareness and get business in. And since COVID, I think I've done a couple of virtual events, but not really doing any. I'm not a big fan of virtual events, to be honest. Yeah. I think, I just don't really get the same vibe. And so I've just really haven't been doing a lot of that. So
No, that's fair enough. Mate, bringing it back to Knowlton. So the business has been around for around 6 years. And one of the things that I love talking to, fellow marketers, because for myself, the building our agency, the business has been around for about 4 years. So people like yourself, people like, Paul Raimondo, Chris Cubby, all the other marketers out there that I get the pleasure of speaking to, they started their agencies a couple of years before me. So it was always kind of the, watching you guys, starting to develop that business and getting super excited about it. So it's been awesome to be able to kind of like follow the journey, I suppose, as everybody's been building their businesses, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think it took us like the first 4 years, though, we were just trying to figure stuff out. It was only Lloyd and myself for the first 4 years, just winging it, trying to figure stuff out. And then it's only really been the last 2 years that we've kind of cracked the code, and now we're scaling up. So it's been an interesting ride.
It's that overnight success, mate.
Yeah, if only.
Mate, so as we mentioned when we started rolling, the whole idea of digital by AttentionMedia is that we try and focus on a particular topic in the digital marketing space and really break that down for everybody. So for people who aren't as familiar with Knowlton, or they haven't come across your content, which is not very likely, obviously, from where you're from. But here in Australia, mate, you guys are very well known for the creative that you produce both on the agency side for yourselves and also for your clients, right? Would you say that's one of your like real points of difference as an agency?
Yeah, definitely. Producing, it's really broken down into creative content that drives action and paid social media ads that targets the right people with the right message at the right time to get them to buy stuff. That's really it.
And I think you guys have a very fun, easygoing way of creating content that is entertaining, right? And what's your key term for that? Advertainment?
Yeah, I think that's just something I nicked off someone else. But yeah, it's entertaining advertising. So it's the simplest way of putting it.
I think it's something though that for you guys, you're putting out content that your own agency content. It's very entertaining. You guys are wearing wigs. You're doing skits. It's it's something that you don't often see from a lot of people. And I think obviously that's why it works, because it's done very well. You're happy to kind of have a laugh and take the piss, and you're really putting some value out into the marketplace rather than just another video, right? So it would be really cool to kind of break that down a little bit to get, why you go about things the way you do.
Sure. So it all started. So when we started about 6 years ago, we were self-taught. So I did a marketing degree, but didn't learn much about marketing. I was just getting drunk, basically, like you do at university. Yeah. And when I came out of that, and I went into a job in London, and then after a year, I worked my way up the ranks and quit. Came home, I started to get interested in learning about how to build an audience on social media. So really, just reading articles. One of the first articles I read was from a guy called Matthew Barbie, who's now the head of growth at HubSpot. And it was like, here's how you grow a Twitter following. And I started to just do what the article said and started to grow a following and learn about marketing. And from there, it was just a case of trying and testing loads of different types of content. And most of it didn't work. Most of it was tumbleweed. Most of it, no one engaged with, no one was liking it, commenting on it. Until 2017, we thought we'd try something different, and we basically wanted to produce a testimonials video. So a video of our customers who we'd worked with and did some training with, just saying nice things about us. But we knew that type of video is boring. No one wants to watch a 5-minute video of people saying, yeah, Knowlton are really good. So what we did was we thought we'd try and be creative, and we would play different characters. We'd dress up with wigs and act out as if we were commenting on working with us. And it was it's a bit of comical. And that video we posted on Facebook at the time, back in 2017. And for us, it had like 3,000 views, 50 comments. For us, that was viral at the time. Yeah. At the time of no one commenting on anything, it was like, wow, this is really working. And from there, we thought, wow, like doing something in a different way, making it a bit fun and interesting, whilst also communicating a clear sales message, actually works. And from there, it's just been a case of trialing and testing lots of different types of content that is entertaining and fun. And now there's a lot of strategy behind what we do in terms of creating content that really resonates with marketers from brands. And that's part of our whole strategy now.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, for the most part, we kind of do, look at marketing and fall into sort of old habits or old ways of doing things, or, semi-copying what other people have done. And there's not a lot of strategy as such, or testing and measuring to actually see what works. I think that's kind of a key point that you mentioned earlier, is that you spend a whole lot of time trying to find out what actually works, because what works for one company doesn't necessarily going to work for another company or person or individual or whatever it is. It's completely tailored to your audience, and I think it's the ability that you guys have to create content that brings the message, but is able to keep people watching the video, right? Get the marketing message across and provide some value at the same time. Really liked what you guys did, and I hope you're happy to mention the name, but Cameo Apples, right, for example. We saw a lot of that content here in Australia from you guys, right? What was kind of the thought process behind that? Because here in the Goulburn Valley, for example, we're based in Shepparton, it's a big fruit growing area, right? So I see that kind of content and I go, wow, like that's a great concept. Like, how does that sort of thing come to life?
So they came to us, to give context to the listeners and viewers, they came to us about 3 years ago, and they had a big objective with, they're currently, at the time, they were stocked in some of the biggest supermarkets in the UK, but they weren't stocked as a branded Cameo apple. They were just stocked as a generic Sweet Crisp apple, because supermarkets, they didn't want to use their branding. They just wanted to say, this is our own brand, right? So they came to us and said, look, we're stocked in some of the biggest supermarkets in the UK, but they won't stock us as our brand. And obviously, to grow our brand, we want to have branded product in supermarkets. So they set us a challenge and said, we want you to come up with a strategy to get us stocked as a branded Cameo apple in supermarkets, right? Pretty big challenge.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Like, okay. So we came up with this whole strategy where we wanted them to drive demand from the ground up. We wanted to be able to go to supermarkets and prove to them that people care about the Cameo brand. So we had this whole, over the last 3 years, we've worked on this ongoing campaign to produce content, cleverly using paid social ads to reach people with really creative content, to get them talking about the brand, to get them excited about the brand. And our whole approach was to basically do a load of research into their target market, figure out what are their target market talking about with their friends when they're picking the kids up from school? What are their target market talking about when they're in their mate's WhatsApp group? And really did research to understand, what do these people care about? What TV shows do they watch? What films do they watch? And once we did that research, we used Twitter to see what popular opinions were on those kind of culturally relevant movies and TV shows. So, for example, in the UK, there's a show called Dancing on Ice. I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you got that in?
We've got a similar thing, Dancing with the Stars. You know, it's not on ice, but
Yeah, it's a similar thing. So they get celebrities to, do ice skating and stuff. And we knew that was something that their target demo were constantly talking about, right? So each week when the show was on, we'd look on Twitter to see what were the most popular opinions people were having on that episode. So like, say for example, there was this celebrity called Gemma Collins on there, who's from a reality TV show. Everyone was talking about her. She had a massive fall, and we looked at Twitter to see, like, there was tweets and that were trending based around commenting on that fall. We created content where we'd built a miniature set, and we had apples commenting on the TV show, and the script was cleverly written to tap into the popular opinions that we knew they cared about, because we used Twitter to research. And we'd create this content, millions of views, tens of thousands of the audience engaging with the content. That was one concept. We also tapped into when Game of Thrones was launched. We did a whole thing where we had this guy on a horse and sort of made out that he was the biggest Game of Thrones fan ever, and he was a Cameo Apple's employee. We've done David Attenborough's Netflix Our Planet documentary. We had a David Attenborough voiceover commenting on an apple as if it was a wild animal. Loads of crazy, weird ideas. However, it sounds like just stupid stuff that a marketing company would come up with. However, last year, they took all of that evidence to all of the supermarkets, and they've managed to get stocked as a branded Cameo apple in Lidl, which is one of the biggest supermarkets here, finally last year. So it was a huge success, and they've signed another year contract with us, and it sounds really strange, but it worked.
Yeah, mate, insert round of applause, because as you said, like, again, that took a process, that took time, it took a lot of research from you guys, a lot of effort. And I think, that's one thing where, again, for those who are listening, whether it's a business owner, whether it's a CMO, whether it's just somebody in marketing, the level of detail that you need to go to do the research, find out what is happening. Because again, it's not so much, I think we get stuck, don't we, in promoting our brand or talking about our product or service, rather than thinking about the end consumer and what they're doing during their day, right? It doesn't matter whether it's an apple in a supermarket or you're going to get a haircut or something like that, right? You guys are tapping into what's happening in current culture, what's trending, what people are excited about, and then bringing the brand and that pop culture together, and it obviously creates really, really good content.
Yeah, because I think, like, as well, we were never started out knowing what we were doing. So we've made the mistakes of producing content that's very like even for our marketing company, very much, hey, we could do your marketing, come and work with us.
Yeah.
None of that worked. Like you said, no one cares about your brand. To start out with, no one cares about your brand. They're on these platforms to be educated, entertained, inspired. They're there to consume interesting content, not for you to say how brilliant you are and how you can help them. So this is where we've come up with this whole kind of marketing approach of producing content that is fun, entertaining, interesting to watch. But also the key thing is to ensure it's structured in a way that subtly communicates the benefits of the product or service and helps overcome objections, because we could all be just posting funny cat videos and getting thousands of likes and stuff, but that doesn't ultimately help the top level objective of generating a trackable return on investment, trackable sales, demonstrating that people actually want to buy your product. So there needs to be a lot of thought behind it. It's not just posting stupid Apple videos, or, which it looks like to a lot of people. There's a lot of thought that goes behind it. And
yeah, and it's not until you break it down like that every single shot in the content that you're producing is there for a reason, right? Like it's there for a reason. It has a purpose, and I think that's can you kind of break it down any further around if you have a client come to you and they say, we want you to create content for X, Y, Z, where do you guys kind of like start? Like for the business owner out there who has been, shooting some video on their phone, they've been posting it to Facebook and it's just been crickets. How do you guys kind of, structure that content? What sort of steps would you go through when you are creating a video, for example?
Good question. So the first step is really understanding the who. And this is like marketing 101. So this isn't sort of crazily advanced or anything, but so many people skip past this step and don't spend enough time on it. Who are you trying to convince to do something? And not just like, oh, it's a 30-year-old male from Australia, whatever. It's you need to think of granular detail of, what do these people talk about with their friends? What are they sharing in their group WhatsApp groups? What language do they use that only they will understand? What nuances in their job that only they understand? And you need to do that research piece. Like, for example, we work with Wall, one of the longest running male grooming brands, and they've got like a consumer side and a professional side. The professional side, every barber you speak to will use Wall products in the world. It's like the number one product for barbers. And we did a year ago, we did a campaign to producing content and paid social ads to drive trackable sales from the professional side. And we were targeting barbers. Us in the agency, we have no idea what barbers talk about with their barber mates. We have no idea what language barbers use, what funny things happen in barbers that barbers will talk to each other about. We didn't know that. So we had to go to barbers and speak to them and ask them these kinds of questions to get the answers and understand because then you can start to work backwards and shape content, tapping into those key themes that they get. That's the first real step that you need to focus on.
Love that. Yeah. Rather than trying to create content that you think might work, it's doing that research and actually talking to people in the industry. Love that. Key tip.
So that's step number one. Who? Understand the who. Do your research. Step number two is to then work backwards and think about what is the decision-making process those people go through when they're looking for a solution that you have. So for example, right, let's take a pen. I always just have a pen on my desk. So this is the best example. If you're looking for a new pen, what is the process you go through to find a pen that fulfills your needs? You want a pen that's got a certain ink in it that's going to last for a certain time, that you trust is going to be durable and that kind of thing. What's the process you go through? Do you search Google and look at reviews? Do you look on social? Do you look on, do you ask your friends? Once you understand that thought process and what people are looking for, then you can start to build content that fulfills all those needs. For example, reviews. Everyone, if they're buying a product or service, wants to hear some kind of social proof that your product or service delivers on its promises. So we create content like case studies, testimonials, user-generated product unboxings and reviews, all of those things where it's someone that looks like the person you're trying to convince to buy, opening up the product or talking about working with a service-based business and saying, I had this problem, this product or service solved this problem in this way. Here's what it's like. And like that kind of content. Yeah. Then there's things like objections. What are the objections someone has to buying this pen? Does this pen have as much ink in it as you say it does? Is it right for me? are there other suppliers that could be right for me? You need to ask yourself, what are all those objections that someone has? If you're like an accountant, what are all the objections someone has? Are you the right accountant for me? Can I afford you? What's your pricing like? You need to answer all of these questions within your content. And then the way that we bring this all together is by using paid social ads to target people at each of those stages, to hold their hand and guide them on this customer journey to eventually buying what we're selling them, because we've taken them on that journey.
So you mean you can't just show somebody a video and they buy straight away?
I wish that worked, mate. Actually, to be fair, we probably wouldn't have a job if that was how it worked.
Wow, that's true, actually. That's absolutely awesome, Matt. And I think it kind of really, obviously being super excited to get you on the show to talk about this exact topic is kind of break down how much work needs to be done in order to create something that is effective, right? It's not a, post one video and change your business overnight.
I do think though, sorry, just to say, I do think that I also don't want to, because I'm talking from where we're at now. So we're working with some big global brands. Everything's like big budget. And, if you're running a small business, you might be listening thinking, this isn't relevant to me. However, don't be scared off. Like, we started with nothing in my parents' back room with a crappy camera that was awful. No, with my phone, actually. That's how we started, with a phone. So if you have this strategy and thought process around creating content that builds awareness, that overcomes objections and builds trust and nudges people to buy, you can create all that on your phone. Like, starting out, I'm not saying that it's going to look the best in the world, but this is how we started to get to where we are now. So yeah, definitely don't be scared off by hearing about all these big content ideas and stuff. You can literally do it from your home on your phone to start out with. You don't have an excuse.
And again, it's probably more the process that's important, isn't it? Like, you need to decide on who are you trying to target, what's the customer journey, and how are you going to lead them through that to a point of purchase, right? Then you can go and shoot it on your phone. As you said, it doesn't have to be a high value production.
Exactly. And it also, just because we focus on video and content, it doesn't just have to be video. It could be articles and blogs. We started out writing educational tutorials, no video. Like, it could be podcasts, it could be whatever, it could be GIFs. Like, think of, it doesn't have to be one kind of media format. There's so many avenues where your customers are consuming information that you can be getting on, any of those.
Exactly. One thing I think is, we hear it every now and again that content is subjective, right, mate? So, you can, content that works for one person and that one person really resonates might not work for somebody else. Where do you guys sit with that approach, right? When you do have big budgets working for big brands, and there's a bit of pressure there, obviously, to try and create something that is going to work. Is it the process that you go through that gives you, or basically reduces that risk, I suppose, for want of another word, so that the majority of people are going to resonate with this?
Yes, that's one thing. Like, a lot of the ideas we pitch brands are very out there, and they kind of rein us in. Like, for example, one of the concepts we pitched this big Whole Foods company, they wanted to communicate that they're really environmentally friendly. They care about the world, about the sea and animals and stuff. Part of that concept, we suggested punching a dolphin in the face to communicate what they don't do. Right. So like, because we knew that would communicate the point, but we have to rein ourselves in that sense. And I think, yes, planning plays a big role in getting it right and resonating with an audience. However, the more important thing is variety and quantity of content. Yeah. So we know that if we shoot something in 5 different ways with 5 different characters, we've got more chance of getting a conversion, because one of those characters will appeal more with that person, even if they're saying the same stuff. So having that variety of content, there's no one silver bullet. There's no one, we're going to do one video that's going to sell all your stuff, like you said. It's right at each of those stages of the decision-making process, breaking it down into 3 simple stages: awareness, consideration, purchase, having multiple pieces of awareness content, some entertaining, some very serious and educational, some insightful, some thought leadership pieces, potentially. At the middle of that funnel, having some unboxings, having some user-generated content that's really raw and looks a bit crappy, and having some high-produced stuff. It's thinking of variety. And this is why it's so important to constantly be creating content, which I know like every marketer in the world says, but there's no silver bullet. When I look at things like on TikTok, for example, if you really wanted to focus on TikTok, if you look at most people who create lots of videos on TikTok, most of them will have a video that gets tens of thousands of views because they've tried and tested so many different things. So it's so important to keep doing that.
And another key thing I think to mention there around people who have built a brand online and create lots of content, put out lots of videos, that like part of their success is that they are constantly putting out content, right? If they were to suddenly stop, their popularity drops very, very quickly, right? It's, if you're not top of mind, then people forget about you. So again, like success leaves clues, right? It's about putting out content and continually trying to refine it and put out something that people enjoy.
And also, even if you have a concept that lands, right? For example, for us, so when we first did our first marketing sketch, like 2 years ago, it landed and it absolutely smashed it. And still to this day, sketches get tons of engagement and help drive business. However, what you don't want to do, and this is just my advice from my experience, is become complacent. And we could make like 3 sketches a week or 4 sketches a week and just pump out that because we know it gets the numbers. But you need to constantly innovate and try new things, because eventually that style of content isn't going to work. It's going to become boring and every marketer is going to do it. It's constantly trying to think of new creative ways. Like, for example, today we tried something different. We shot a parody of 3 well-known UK-based TV ads that everyone knows. We kind of changed the script to a Knowlton-based ad, and we're trying that. There's just tons of different things. You need to constantly be trying and testing new things.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Great advice, mate. Great advice. Another question, switching gears slightly. Where do you feel, what are your thoughts on the current state of digital marketing, right? Just in general, this could obviously be more UK based on your side of the world, but where do you think digital marketing is sitting at the moment?
There's a massive buzz around kind of live audio through platforms like Clubhouse, Twitter, with their Spaces, which is basically copying Clubhouse. Yep. There's been rumors of Facebook developing a tool that's very copying Clubhouse, classic Facebook, see something that has success, just copy it to a much bigger audience. So I think that's one area that currently I see blowing up, or lots of people talking about. But overall, I still feel like the core, it's important not to get distracted by shiny objects, because ultimately what we've already discussed in this podcast is to have a strategy behind producing content mapped to the decision-making process of your customers. I personally don't spend a lot of time either trying to figure out what's the next big thing or like what's the new thing we should be doing, because I think it's important to kind of try and test and see what's working yourself. But definitely the live audio thing at the moment is what everyone's sort of shouting about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, what's happening in the wide world as well influences and impacts, marketing, right? So at the moment, lots of lockdowns going on, people can't travel as much. And that live audio, it's just, it breaks down the friction, right? People can connect, people can have, conversations. So it's trying to have a look at what is happening on the outside world and then try and tap into and align your marketing with that so that, you can get some success. Jump onto a platform like Clubhouse, start some rooms, start building a brand, putting your brand out there or providing value to the marketplace.
I think there's no one silver bullet as well. Still to this day, things that people might think that, don't work anymore or aren't as important or aren't as interesting, blogs, articles, they still work.
Yeah.
Podcasts. That was the biggest thing in 2020. Everyone's got to do a podcast. That still works. Everything can still work. It's where you focus your energy. And I think it needs to be down to a few key things in terms of if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, there's so much different marketing things I could be doing, social media, podcasts, Clubhouse, blogs, SEO. I think it needs to focus on a few key things. One, your audience definitely need to be there, which is like marketing 101 again. If your ultimate goal is to try and sell your product and you're using channels where your audience aren't, that's counterintuitive. So your audience have got to be there. Secondly, though, I think it needs to tie in with your skills and yes, what you're good at. If you're good at writing, then do a blog. If you're good at speaking, Clubhouse or podcasts, that kind of thing, it needs to really tie into what you're good at. And thirdly, and this sounds a bit fluffy, but what you enjoy doing. Because I think if you push yourself to like start a podcast, but you really feel uncomfortable doing it and you hate it, it's never going to work out, because you're going to resent yourself for doing it. So think about what you actually enjoy doing. They're the kind of 3 core pillars I tend to focus on when choosing where to focus my time.
So good. Mate, just as we look to wrap up, given the fact that we are living in a much different world to, the one we would ideally like to be in, how is life, mate, as a public figure, as a business owner, as a dad as well, mate? How is life on your side of the world?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's good. I think like we've been very lucky, and there's lots of people in a much worse situation, so you've got to take that into account. But for us, we're all good. The business is doing well. Yeah. We hired 2 people last year when this all kicked off. Yeah. I think it's gone well for us, but yeah, we've just been very lucky. And I've got a variety of kind of agency friends. Some of them, all of their customers were in hospitality and they've literally just gone under. Yeah. So I feel like we're really lucky to be in a position and enjoying dad life and home life. It's all good. Yeah. How about you? How's things with you in Australia? What's it like there? Is it crazy, or is it?
Mate, it's definitely settled down, but I think, yeah, again, it's, you wouldn't want to take the politicians' jobs or anything like that. You wouldn't be putting your hand up for a very difficult situation. And obviously we haven't really, had this situation at a global scale before, but it's going to be interesting for business. And again, like I said at the start of this interview, we're just into a 5-day snap lockdown again here in Victoria because there's a couple of cases in Melbourne. And it's really hard on businesses, especially in the hospitality sector. Like you said, a lockdown gets announced on a Friday night, stock gets wasted, bookings get cancelled, and people are still trying to rebuild from last year, right? They're still in massive debt, still trying to pull themselves out of a hole. So, for us, we're definitely trying to focus on what we do best to try and help some of these businesses get back as much as possible. And hopefully, there's a solution not too far away where we can get back to some sort of normality.
Yeah.
But again, we are very fortunate. So in the meantime, we'll keep putting out great content and keep talking to great people like yourself, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find out more about yourself and Knowlton?
Our website, knowltonmarketing.co.uk, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. Just search Dan Knowlton, and Twitter as well. So yeah, that's where I'll be.
Appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
Cool. Cheers.
So that's it for another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. As we mentioned, we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on this episode. You can do that by heading over to our Instagram at Attention Media Agency and letting us know what your thoughts. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to know what you'd like us to talk about in upcoming episodes. So send us your topic ideas. We are always interested. And if you'd love to know more, head over to the website attentionmedia.com.au. That's all for now. We'll see you in the next episode.